All right, I think we can start now. All right, thanks everyone for joining us for today's webinar. So we are going to discuss about driving growth. It's about balancing personalized service and a future revenue focus in long tail and tech touch customer success segments, if you will. As a business, navigate an ever changing landscape, providing exceptional customer experience remains paramount. The key lies in understanding the unique needs of each customer segment and aligning our strategies for maximum impact. In this webinar, we bring together two industry experts and thought leaders who have successfully charted a course towards sustained growth and customer satisfaction. So I'd like to introduce Jeff Heckler and Sandy Yu. So if you guys could be able to introduce yourself.
Jeff, go ahead.
I am Jeff Heckler, the Director of Customer Success Solutions at Market Source. We provide customer success for our customers, as well as, of course, we have a customer success practice inside of our company. So it's an inside-out motion, if you will. I've been here for it'll be 2 years soon, and delighted I've been here that during that time built a lot, and it's been a lot of fun, as we will have some fun, I'm sure, during this discussion. I see some names on here, Rajat and Roxy, and yeah, so some familiar names. So it'll be a good time, and I appreciate being here with AppEQ as well as with Vincent and Sandy. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sandy Yu. In addition to being an advisor for AppEQ, I advise companies on post-sale strategies on how to monetize their customer base. So my background is actually in big tech in Pricewaterhouse, Cisco, WebEx, and Oracle for a long while. And I'm now really excited to actually bring my expertise to more companies and helping people to, like Jeff, bring that customer-centric approach on driving growth. Vincent?
Sure, thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Sandy. So since we're discussing about how we could be able to drive growth between the long tail and tech touch customer success segments, now I'd like first to ask both of you, if you're going to design a customer success program that would help your customer base to be able for them to be successful engaging with the product, how would you leverage technology to deliver a personalized experience to this kind of customer segment? Jeff, if you would like to take that, and then Sandy.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think to first come at that, it's to level set and build the correct landscape. We're going to look at the entire customer journey from start to finish and really architect that out. Not just exclusive to tech touch and long tail or whatever those segments you're looking at, but in all segments of the customers, and doing that cross-functionally with your other stakeholders internally in leadership, but as well as doing that with either focus groups testing with your customer base, and making sure that what you're designing is in fact true to what a customer experience is. I think just looking at it from a product perspective can become rather myopic, and can lead to some pitfalls that wouldn't be otherwise. So that's the strong suit mission of customer success, right? Build out that entire vision, and do that with the customer, with the center of all of the things that you want to operationalize against. And so that would be the first swing I'd go through on it, and I'll pass it over to Sandy, and we can build from there.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, Jeff. I think it does. There's a lot of different areas. I love your perspective about looking at it cross-functionally, not just from product or even from sales. It's looking at who your customers are, but I also looking at what your resources are too, right? Like, what stage of a company are you when you feel like you really need to actually bring more of the digital strategy to how you support your customers holistically throughout, like Jeff says, throughout their customer journey, throughout their experience with you, from marketing to sales to success to support, and hopefully to loyalty and advocacy. And so those are the type of areas I think when you're just starting to think about it, sometimes it's important, well, all the time, it's important to bring all the different functional teams together. So you continue to align, you develop a common understanding and vision for the experience you want to provide to your customers. And then you can decide, what's the right segmentation for which type of strategy. But to me, when I think about tech touch, it's not just for the lower value customers, right? It's really about what is the motions of the customer, how do they try to get value from working with you. So to me, the digital strategy is actually encompassing all of your customer segments. But we'll dive more deep into like when's appropriate for what services.
Yeah, I would jump back in and build on that, Sandy, and what you said about building. And I think when you look at the title, or we talk about that, the long tail and the tech touch, and to double down on that, when I first built a CS in digital with ops structure a couple now going several years ago, we won't count those years. I think that was one of the last things we looked at, right? I came in and took over a global team that had only done the classic CS motion in account handling and carrying a definite and defined set of customers. And so then building upon that, oftentimes we had seen from 8 years ago, probably until right at the high point of COVID, was we're now adding long tail digital touch strategies to a customer success function that already exists. If I were doing those things today, I would do exactly what Sandy said and really look at the entire and how we led with the entire customer journey for all customers, and then seeing how is that strategy going to be part of everything that we do. I've also said for now about 2 years that my first CS hire wouldn't be a CSM. It would be somebody that's in ops and building from cross-functionally with RevOps, if that's a function that exists. If not, then we own a RevOps for CS responsibilities, and starting with ops. And then that gives a base on where we can go from there. Of course, interviewing and being with customers as tightly as possible, but building in that direction. Additionally, what I've learned through my now third iteration of building CS tech touch strategies and ops in-house is that almost everything that you build for what we call the long tail or the 20 in your the lower hanging fruit, what is it called, is that percolates up. And so that's the strategies that you build for those customers have advantages that can serve all customer segmentations. And largely, I will also just say we define long tail traditionally based on MRR, NRR, ARR. I think now we've matured to a point as the CS practitioners that we look at segmentations by all number and manner of cohorts. And we'll jump further into that today as well, I imagine.
All right, sounds good, Jeff and Sandy. Yeah, so I'd like also to mention that a lot of the organizations that I've spoken with in the past, the very concern is if we are going to develop digital CS strategy, is we're going to lose what I call the human touch. So what have you observed in the market? Do you think other businesses have when it comes to changes in terms of this approach? Any thought on how to improve this kind of CS engagement without losing the human touch if we are going to pursue this kind of engagement with our long tail customers?
I can start with that. I think for us, when I worked at Oracle, it's very much about what is the customer trying to achieve. Because with Oracle, obviously our customers are primarily like big companies, and what we found from our customers, they actually prefer self-service. So when you have tech touch and you have a digital strategy, is actually more helpful for them to get the answers that they want when they want it. And so how do we do that through, do we do that through chatbots? Do we do that through communities? Do we do that through a knowledge base? And it's understanding where are our customers naturally going towards and make sure to actually bolster the resources at the places that they naturally go to.
Yeah, 100%. Right content, right time to the right individual. And we look at all of our strategy in that way. I think a lot of folks get hung up on personalization being, okay, the one-to-one, right? From the one organization to the one organization, or even from person to person, human to human. That's great for a lot of ways that want to be, for a lot of communication strategies, but not all customers want that. And I also think that the speed and velocity of your communications can be varied to taking advantage of other strategies to get to your customer. I mean, I think as customers, and we're all customers of a lot of things, when something comes to me, and I think this is the magic word, proactively, I really look at that type of delivery as, okay, this organization or this service or whoever's providing the information to me really does know me, because they're coming to me with it before I'm asking, need to know, search, et cetera. So I think that regardless of whatever you call it, that delivery of the right message, right time, right content to the right person happening proactively is the key to delivering a highly personalized service. All the other window dressing is nice, right? With hyper personal about wherever that destination is, whether it's a person, organization, a contract, or meeting an SLA, but really going it and doing it before it needs to be done, delivering it before it needs to be asked for is key in that relationship.
Just want to add one more thing before we move on to the next one. You really have to take a look at the resources you have, right? You can be very aspirational, but I thank you, Erica, for sharing kind of your situation with us, right? Someone that's with the early stage startup with only 3 CSMs, right? They don't have tech touch as part of their strategy yet. So I want to make sure that we kind of talk about that. You could have this aspiration to be hyper personal, but maybe for someone with a smaller number of resources is to personalize by segment first, right? You can have cohorts of customers, not just by revenue, but cohorts of customers that actually engage with you in specific ways. And so I think we have to be really realistic about what our resources are while looking at what the aspirational outcome is.
Yeah, I love that you said that and brought us back home, Sandy. Especially as the CS leaders that are either here now or will be watching this later, that also really helps you to map out for your planning, right? And working cross-functionally with what are the goals for us as an organization, product and services that we want to be and we want to lead to get us to our next milestones and our goals. And looking at, well, if I'm working at a company that's a high PLG, then maybe I'm looking, to allocating resources in my hiring plan more in a digital and CS ops motion versus if I'm doing something, have a product with a, 7-figure ARR and something that needs to be white gloved. And that, I need to have CSMs that handle between 1 and 5 accounts versus 100 and 500 accounts. And so they're different resource allocations for that. And then also think about your tech stack and the tooling that you'll need to pull that off. You won't need an email marketing campaign if you're the latter model. You definitely will if you're the earlier model where your mass comms are important. So that's a great call out, Sandy. I appreciate that. And I think that looks at really how can you not only allocate but then also move as the tides move. I think fortunate or unfortunate, we saw a lot of individuals that did rather agile annual planning last year, second half of 2022, seeing some of the things, headwinds, challenges that we're going to be up against. And so when it came into this year, they had already been ahead of the ball in regards to what they were looking at for an organization and able to move some of their levels. I also think that changes how you hire. If you know that you're going to be looking at potential evolution of your team, hiring direct AE style, AM style CS pros is different than, we might be leveraging more digital. So I want to look at folks that have more of a PM, marketing, or other larger scalable options in a profile of hiring than I would, on the account management, contract negotiations, upsell, cross-sell.
Great share, Jeff and Sandy. Yeah, so can you also help us understand, because a lot of organizations, just like what you have pointed out, back in the days, they would like to segment the customer based on ARR. Now we're seeing that we have not just to focus on the dollar value the customer we should engage with. Now, if you're going to design a customer success engagement, how would you determine which customer should go for a tech touch as opposed to the enterprise or commercial aspects? And if you decide that kind of engagements, how would you prioritize that kind of service, if you will?
Jeff, you want to go first this time?
Sure, wide open, and I think Taylor has a question in here too that we might be able to dovetail in here, asking expectation setting with clients, starting from sales, and what tools and support each segment will get is important as well. Great comment, Taylor. Thank you for that. I think that folds into where we're going here. Yeah, so this is, I mean, this starts way upstream, right? The conversation around expectations starts with sales and marketing, and then in mass, and then comes down to, you know, the reason to be for each customer that's come in, and then looking at what is the strategy is going to get them from expectations to outcomes and delivery. And so I think that the way that that's going to be handled along the customer journey is really what you look at it when you're mapping what deliveries are going to be in app if you're SaaS, what deliveries are going to be, you know, product led, what deliveries need to be done during different segment lifestyle stages where we have you know, onboarding and adoption, and maybe you have milestones within app that customers then unlock to different tiers or, you know, different feature sets. And then that comes in different costing segments as well. I mean, a whole host of things that need to be kind of built out in the matrix. And I'd imagine that would be some of your first steps. So I would start there and look at testing with customers first before, you know, launching full scale, then iterating from there.
Yeah, I think those are great points, and there's so many nuances, right? When you kind of go deep into it. For me, I think it's pretty typical for people to include verticals as a segmentation for this consideration. We've already talked about that. Don't just divide them up based on ARR, because what they spend with you is not the share of wallet. It's not reflective of it's just a reflection of your share of wallet, right? It's not like kind of their ability to spend. And for me, when I think about how to determine, it really goes back to what are the jobs that the CSMs are doing that really doesn't need to be them, right? So I want to take a look at what are the things that the CSMs are doing where it actually could be better served by having it available for whenever the customers need it. And I like the idea of having obviously telemetry data so that you can take a look at that. It really requires a lot more deep dive assessment analysis to determine which customers should have more tech touch. To me, I go back to more, not just tech touch. Like I wouldn't consider a customer a tech touch customer. I would consider what is our position for the digital strategy for this particular segment of customers.
I think there's two other things to take in consideration as we're having this conversation of what, you know, how do we segment and how we're going to drive, you know, personalization and tech. You know, having painfully gone through a repackaging exercise several years ago, you don't want to give whiplash to your customers when you then change strategies on them midstream, but their price points have also changed as well. And so what I mean by that is if you have customers who, because you're growing up market as an organization and you outgrow some customers, it happens, it's natural, and that's progression. Some customers will then fall into different tiers, different service levels and different agreement sizes. And to take customers that had previously been receiving wonderful, maybe even enabling benefits with their CSM now fall into a different strategy with you. That conversation is one you're not going to want to have all too often, although unfortunately will happen. If you have a hybrid emotion and collection of motions that you're reaching out to your customers with, whereby customers are receiving onboarding and adoption and growth touches in a myriad of ways, moving them around as your strategy segments and outreach moves as well will be much more comfortable to them. And as Sandy rightly pointed out, as our customers mature, both during time and as well as personas, the way they want to be engaged with it changes. And they're, take it just from their buying habits. Back in the day of on-prem software, we have maybe, a few stakeholders, and now you have, and they might have been speaking with, just a few companies are going to have bake-offs with. Now they know, I think that some of the numbers are they've completed 70-80% of their buying research and decision-making before they even reach out to the potential vendors that they will be engaging with. And so think about what the customer behavior and what their appetite and how they want to be served is, and building a hybrid strategy will allow you, we often use the term omni-channel. So we're, engaging with, we have content that will reach our customers however it is that they want to be engaged with. And a long time ago, I was a high school teacher, and going through pedagogy for that, you learn that learners learn in different ways, depending upon their own personas. And so some individuals will want to be engaged technically, and some will want to be with content they consume in different ways. And then there's the video and the text and everything else that's available. So, and creating that in bite-sized chunks that are highly consumable and repeatable, and actionable is key. So I think about that as well.
Vincent, can I just add one more point before we move on? Because I want to address specifically what Taylor mentioned about tools and support. And what Jeff just said reminded me, it's important to observe your customers' behavior, right? So you have this set of customers. What are the channels of engagement? What are the tools that they actually use right now the most? What are they asking you? Are they asking you, hey, do you have a Slack channel? Are they saying to you like, oh, like, I wish I had a way to find this out myself? So it's really important, even when you have especially when you have a small team, it's a great opportunity for you to actually take the data that you have about how customers like to engage with you, and then start doubling down, maybe create more channels that are specific to your customers, or, whatever that is. But it's really listening to the customers about how they like to be engaged. And Jeff, I saw you nodding your head. You had something else to add?
I was just laughing in the inside because I think about the surveys that we receive, either when we're signing up for a service and we're customers, or if I'm unsubscribing and someone said, I get the prompt with, well, wait a minute, don't unsubscribe. Would you rather have communications in these format, these cadence levels, and so it's this great opportunity to ask your customers, how do you want to be engaged? How often would you like that engagement? What's the frequency you're expecting from us? I've even asked, what do you want that content length to be, whether it's a video or text? How much are you willing to invest in your time with us and to consume video, or to read a piece? We're talking, how many minutes do you want to read an article from us? How often would you like that article to be sent to you? What are the topics that you're interested in? And so, the very easy is Google forming it and sending it to your customers and telling them this input will be directly used to design our communication strategies with you, and allowing them to be part of the product, letting them know how that's going to work. So great stuff.
Yep, Taylor, if you have questions, feel free to ask.
Yeah, more of a comment from experience. I think there's obviously the part of building out the strategy, but I was in a position recently where the data that we had was in such a bad place, I would say, that once we got to a point that we wanted to do email campaigns, we wanted to do X, Y, and Z, data was not in a place where it would allow us to really accurately send out communications, understand even what industry they're in. Maybe it's technology, but what is the sub industry they're in, right? So I think that if I was going to go back from scratch and build something, making sure that the systems that we use are able to allow input from that data to be more accurate. That way we could use it, 6 months, 12 months down the road, rather than getting to a spot in our journey that we've already laid out and our data is just takes 5-10 times the amount of time just to find something. Trying to get, even on a simple webinar like this, how many people attended, who were they, what was their position, what company were they at, what was their ARR, all those little simple things that I think a lot of us overlook until it comes time to actually put the tools in the back end in place to really help us optimize and be more efficient and spend our time in places that we want to, rather than mindless, administrative, tedious manual work, which I've been a part of, and it's very frustrating.
Yeah, don't office space me to death, is what I often think of. I would like to come up to on this comment that Pam, our friend Pam, has thrown in here in regards to community platforms, be so helpful. And so just right off the bat, if you're thinking about the classic upvote, downvote, right, and taking ideas and aggregate and seeing how they work in terms of your customer group groups, that we there's a lot of advantages, and community has been a hot topic for a couple of years now. Community, customer ed, another one we've seen make some waves in the press recently. So some of these things that have been and methodologies, principles have been around for quite some time, being tooled in a way that can help maximize the growth and efficiencies of customer success. I think that that's something that we really want to look at. A lot of this, and what we talk about, whether it's a CS ops strategy, digital tech strategy, is really talking about maximizing efficiencies in a 360 all the way around, right? For my company, every dollar that we spend is being utilized and ringed to the max to deliver outcomes and goals that our customers are expecting. And our customers want to see that out of this. They know that certain methodologies cannot be done at scale and or done efficiently. And so looking at ways through ed and through communities to really maximize all the available tools and engagement strategies that can be provided to our customers.
I love to just comment on Taylor's comment. A couple of things. First of all, that data hygiene is what you're talking about is not a problem, is a problem across the board. Company of any size, because I've talked to startups and I worked at big ones. It's that manual process, unfortunately, happens everywhere. And I think that's because you want to be sensitive to how much you're asking your customers in the beginning, right? Like if especially if you're a product-led growth company, and if you ask them like to fill out 10 fields, you're like, forget it, I'm not going to. So that problem, the data hygiene, data completeness is not unique to companies. It's pervasive. But what can we do about that? I think what we are trying to do, obviously you put human resources on that and you try to populate, but I think it's it's having, we're talking about tools, it's having one place where the multiple touch points of people can actually add on to that profile, right? When support learns of something, add to the profile. When success learns of something, add to the profile. And really help make sure that the company understands, everyone in a cross-functional team understands that it's all going to be helpful for us. That little bit of information that you heard, like, hey, they're going to, be acquired in 6 months, that's going to be helpful for everyone. So I think it's building a culture that we're all adding to the profile of the customer so that we can all benefit, because data comes at all different places. Vincent?
Yep, 100%. Sandy, I think a lot of organization right now, they have to make sure that they have to ensure that those customer insights, or they have to dig deep into those data, because again, if you would like to have to ensure that your customer success managers are operating at an optimum or the optimal way. You have to make sure that they are also they are utilizing this data from those customers. And I'd like also to point out that when we develop customer success or digital strategy, we need to focus more on the entire customer journey, not just a single pane of the customer segment. Because if you're going to focus more on just develop or on the or on the wallet share the customer is providing with the business, we're going to lose out what's going to be the future revenue for this kind of customer segments. So I'd like also to know, because a lot of organizations would like also to improve the way they scale and develop their long touch or tech touch strategy. So can you also share about how you guys how would you like or how would you like these businesses would be able to integrate feedback to improve their service offerings and eventually driving growth for their customer use base, if you will?
Are you talking about, Vincent, how do we capture the feedback that we get from our customers?
Yes, since we are engaging with the customers in a way that we would like to know whether or not we are helping them achieve the value from the services that they have paid for. So how will, based on this kind of customer segments, how can we be able to capture their feedback to improve the services or touch points, if you will?
Yeah, I think you have to, for me, there's obviously a lot of voice of the customer programs. You can do surveys, but I think there's technologies out there right now. AppyQ is one of them that actually allows you to actually see insights real time across different platforms. And that's really important because when you're working in your specific function, you typically only have access to your tools and services. And so I think it's not just the surveys, but it's really aggregating the qualitative data that you get in email, in your support platform, in your CS platform, in your CSMs, because there's opportunities to actually collect feedback from all the platforms, all the different business units and all the different functions actually use. So for me, it's not just survey. To me, is really not enough. It's one component. So that's one. Second, aggregate the data across the different platforms. There's a lot of tools out there for that. Third, you absolutely have to engage people who are not responding to surveys, because it could mean a lot of things, right? When they're not responding to your surveys, then they may have already given up. They've already decided they don't want to work with you anymore. And so that applies to feedback on this, applies to, retention, a lot of different efforts. You need to talk to the people that are not talking to you and really pay attention to people who are not talking to you.
Yeah, Taylor just chimed in. Those are sneaky churners.
Well, they're telling you that they're going to churn without telling you, right?
Yeah, well,
they feel like they no longer need to engage with you.
Yeah, there's no news is bad news, right? So that's, silence and apathy are killers. So I think one of the things I've done in the past that's been actionable and very helpful for CSMs is adding. You don't want to make spaghetti bowl out of your CRM or your CSP, but adding fields where you're starting to collect and then you can aggregate, the beautiful word that Sandy just used, the items that are coming up. Do that in support all the time, right? But let's do it in customer success. And then so we can take the thing, whatever the issue happens to be. So we can isolate an issue, like let's isolate what Taylor just pointed out is churn, right? So what are the top 5 reasons that our customers are churning? And then we can flag those. And then we can look at dollar amounts from the customers that are in their spend with us, and then start to aggregate those, as she mentioned, and look at those and start to get action against those. Maybe it's content we can create in mass. Maybe it's something in the product folks need to be back for. And let's not, lose sight of CS has a mission to be product loops internally to both to all sales, marketing, product. Billing is a big one that often gets lost, and all the challenges and friction points that can be a challenge, in the billing cycle. I'm going to throw something in chat. I just type out a list I often use, and it's not complete alliteration, but it helps. Is what's the question I'm trying to solve for? How can I collect data to do that? How can I take that data and collate it? And then how can I calculate and aggregate the total pain or victories that I'm getting from that, an MRR or number of customers or spend or cost savings? Confirm this with talking to my customers, and then make those appropriate changes and iterations. And I think also what Sandy was talking about is, confirming that in that confirm stage is really looking for those quiet customers, taking that sentiment data from both customers and my frontline customer facing professionals, and looking at, okay, what does that look like on a softer side? And what are the points that, exit interviews are great, but exit interviews are also late, great and late.
Yes.
And so thinking about how you can get into in front of the customer earlier. And there's some good tech for that, Brightback and some other tools that can help get customers before they exit. But so those are great. That's a great question, Vincent. Appreciate that. And looking at how do we gather that data together and quantify it so that we can look to make actions across our organization in the best interest of our customers.
Jeff, I love what you said, and I have a suggestion for changing the Q in question to C. You want to know? I think you can change it to curiosity.
Absolutely.
Then you have all C's.
Well, it's also one of the things to look for in hiring profiles, right? I want a curiosity with my CSMs or in my customer facing professionals. I want an entrepreneurial spirit. I want the ability to change and to evolve and solve problems that we're going to be seeing that we don't know yet. We know we might come across. So curiosity is always one of the key characteristics to look for in hiring.
Yeah, I agree with Taylor. So you have to make sure that you ask a lot of questions to your customers if you would like to unfold what they would like, what outcomes they would like to do with the software that they have purchased. I am also curious to know, because a lot of the tools right now are also leading organizations to understand like the customer insights and how it benefit the organizations. Vaches, I'd like to hear your thoughts about how do you think organizations could be able to, if they would like to take a look on the long-term view, how do you think organization could be able to help them in terms of the leaky buckets, and how could be able a tool like AppIQ could be able to help them look at those data? Can you share your thoughts on that?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Vincent. I'm really excited to be here, first of all, and I also want to express my thanks to the amazing panelists we have, Jeff and Sandy, and all the CS folk who have joined us for this webinar. This is actually the first webinar that's sponsored by AppIQ, and I can't, I for one can't wait to hear more from our panelists, getting their insights about driving growth and revenue in the long tail. And using tech touch to effectively scale the CS team, right? So talking about AppIQ, we also kind of share the similar passion for helping SaaS business succeed. So when I talk about us, our main focus is on providing real-time insights and intelligent nudges, like within the flow of CSM's work, and we find that giving these insights and nudges as an in-app experience to a CSM, as Jeff pointed out earlier, the magic word, right? How can we drive proactive actions, right? So with AppIQ, that's what we are trying to do, to give these insights like in the flow of work and help teams to be more proactive, and thereby helping them to drive growth. So that is precisely what we are trying to do with AppIQ. And if you guys find this interesting, I would actually I actually want to welcome you to our website, and read more about what we are doing. I don't want to take up so much time here, but we are actually working with a couple of really interesting companies, helping them to drive up their long tail customers. So I'll leave a link in the chat for our website. Thanks a lot for listening to me.
Hey, Veches, thanks for that. All right. So, Sandy, I'd like to get your thoughts on this because you've been into an enterprise organizations, also advising a couple of organizations in between. So, when I look at the current market right now, majority of the businesses are trying to neglect small businesses, primarily because the wallet share, or probably because they think that scaling this kind of small businesses would take long. But with your experience, how would you think the right approach in terms of employing the balance between the service that a customer should get out from the CSM, and at the same time, how could we be able to help them generate more revenue out of this customer or user base, if you will?
Are you saying how do I help companies think about when to pay less attention to lower paying customers, lower revenue customers?
Yeah, how would you help them find the balance between supporting the lower ACV customers as opposed to the high?
Yeah, so we would just take Erica's example, right? So she has 3 customer success managers on her team, and they have lots of customers, some with high ACV and some with low ACV. And for me, I would go back to say how to drive growth is what we're talking about. Really understanding the potential of the customer, right? Look at the revenue size of the company and what is the potential wallet share for the value for the product that you're selling, right? Like, are there multiple products does a company have multiple products that does what you do or similar or overlap, right? So it really takes a CSM to get to know the customer. I would say in order to identify opportunity for growth, whether it's buying more licenses or additional product, it all comes from really knowing your customer. I never want to sell something that they're not going to use and it's not going to be helpful for them to drive their goal. So for me, when I think about my growth, is my job to really find the customers that need me, that need our products, not trying to get our customers to buy something that they may use, but is it really going to help them grow? So I think the perspective, Jeff said it right from the beginning, it's that customer side in, right? Looking at what's good for your customer, and then not, so instead of ignoring them based on kind of their ACV. I don't know if that answered your question, but I really don't like segmenting customers based on their value. And I know if you only have 3, how do you spend the time? And then it's going back to what we said is, what are the motions that the customers are already doing that could be actually supported by more tech, right? Whether or digital touch, right? Is it a community? Is it a chatbot? Is it a Slack channel? Right? So we're putting them there, not because they don't deserve white glove service. We're putting them there because that's what they want. They want to have that responsiveness. They want to have that agency over when they go find the answers. And they just, because of time zones or whatever, they rather do onboarding via video because your product is so easy to use. So why would you put somebody on there trying to schedule something out? Because, people have lives and have full-time jobs. Our customer's job is not to onboard our product. That is not their job, right? Their job is to do whatever it is, to be the CSM, to be the salespeople for their customers, for their companies. So for me, it's you implement digital strategy, you implement technology when it's to the benefit of the customer. And I do think there's a lot of opportunities because, like I said, customers don't always want to talk to us. If they can get the answers that they need by going through a Slack channel, by looking at reviews, then some will prefer that. There's always people that need white glove. They need to manage that as well. But I think there's opportunities to incorporate self-service options for our customers.
Yeah, 100%. There's a way to do that at scale too for those smaller customers that can't use or it's not appropriate to use the resources of a 3-person crew and use that level of touch. So some of the things I've done is employing a tool like ChartMogul or using your BI team internally or your CS ops team if you luxury of having that, and looking at lookalike customers that have expansion motions in your company's history, your product history, looking to see where those inflection points occur. And then you can take the lookalike cohorts and then run empowerment, engagement, and education materials with them to drive them to that next point. And so it's more about the growth opportunity that you have a customer profiling in mass that look to be going towards a certain stage, or you're trying to keep them retained at a certain stage. And so, drive utilization or drive more product or services, and really looking at cohort analysis. And we've talked about segmentation in a myriad of ways here today, but that could be different places in the customer journey. That could be somewhere around your product. It could be feature function. It could be time-based. It could be dollar amount. It could be geography, language, verticals. And so you have a host of ways to look at segment analysis and then drive certain pieces of content and engagement towards those customers in that manner. And I think when we talk about digital, a lot of people think about those tools and do proactive delivery of finite pieces of information, but also thinking about the larger scale ways that also work in a human-led motion in regards to for seemingly long tail customers like office hours and community webinars, things like we're doing here, and newsletters, going back to community and all the different ways that it can engage customers at scale, and video and etc. So a host of ways to get those very vital pieces of information to customers in a proactive and timely way.
Yeah, I completely agree with Jeff. And one thing that's really simple when you have a small team is having office hours. So whether it's onboarding office hours or use case office hours, actually having an office hour that it's not completely tech, but like Jeff said, it's the community, and then you're able to do one-to-many, right? So you're not just one-on-one, and that's what we're trying to move away because you don't have the bandwidth. And from the office hours, it's very easy to transition to a specific community where they start to help each other.
I think there's also something that was alluded to by Sandy much earlier in this conversation, was talking about content, piece of content being curated by your customer-facing individuals and on the front lines and with your individual contributors. One of the things I've done is create MBOs or quarterly based performance metrics around pieces of content that are created where your CSM is answering a question, solving a problem for one customer, and then either recording that, putting that in text, putting that in a help file, putting that in a shared FAQ, and maybe building 5, 10, 15 of those a quarter and sharing those in mass with other customers and start to keyword those. And so you're slowly, crowdsourcing your piece of content for questions that are going to come up across your customer base, regardless of segmentation. And so doing things like that can also be useful.
Yeah, Pam, 100%. Like customers do help each other when they're in communities. Like, oh, you're having this problem. This is to help document. So they are actually sharing the documents that we as a company provide. So I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I like also having the content strategy because some customers they have a different way on how to engage with the CSMs. And content also help those unreachable customers. Some customers didn't attend QBRs, didn't attend scheduled meetings. So sometimes most customers would like to have this kind of content available for them. Yep. So
Sorry,
it's gonna be
before
my
you
last
go,
question.
can I
Yep.
add one more thing? You don't have to do Tech Touch for everybody. You can start say, hey, for our new customers that are coming on, right? So have a starting point where you start having a cohort of customers that has more Tech Touch. So maybe you want to do onboarding videos for customers that are in particular segments that are joining you starting in August. They all get that. And that's a good way for you to have that cohort of customers to get specific feedback. So it's not, you don't always have to say, I'm going to do Tech Touch now. Now I have to go and explain that to our customers. So one way is actually pick a time and then start doing it. And then you can get that specific feedback from customers that all went through the, as an example, digital onboarding with you.
Thanks, Eddie. So this can be my last questions. Any last thoughts, Jeff, in terms of driving growth in this customer segments? And then I'll pass it on to Sandy. Then we're going to close from here.
Yeah, I say it all the time, and it can be applied almost anywhere where you're building, but start small, test, fear no failure, iterate. If you can, use control groups. So you have, you're creating an A/B testing, as it were, if you don't have that readily available. But this is going to be a long journey. We talked about early on about not taking it all at once, but having a view of your customers from the moment that they start their top of funnel activities all the way through to customers for life, and seeing the ways that you can efficiently affect change positively for your customers, and enabling them to be self-sufficient in a manner that's going to drive them to the value that they're expecting out of your product.
Thanks, Jeff. Sandy?
Yeah, I think for me, in order to drive growth, is really understanding your customers, right? Whether we, and if we want to implement a digital strategy to have more Tech Touch, understanding where your customers would like to have this. Think of it. I think, we have this sheepish feeling like, oh, if we give them Tech Touch, then we don't, love them as much. I would say, have a different mindset, right? How can we incorporate Tech Touch so that it's to a benefit? And I really believe that it is to a benefit to the customer. And I think when you have that mindset, you present it that way, and you're curious about in what ways can customers be more self-served? Can they access information and know-how when they need to? I think then they will definitely feel the love from us. And then I think that's what's going to help us drive growth.
Agree. Yeah, I think the lesson here is don't do something just because it's, it is the best practices, it's fast, or because everyone is doing it. Do it because, it's adding value to your customer relationship. I think that is what about the digital strategy is all about. Again, Jeff, Sandy, thank you so much for joining us today, and also for sharing your insights and expertise in this. And thank you again. Thanks everyone for joining. Have a great day.
Hey.
Thanks,
Bye,
Joe.
everybody. See you on LinkedIn.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.